It's me. Just wanted to tell you guys what I'm doing with this RedLion RL44 pressure tank. So I'm going to be changing out my old pressure tank and putting this one in my crawl space. So it comes with this female port that's 1¼ inch, and that's the inlet. What I ended up doing was I put on a poly 1¼ male connection reducer down to a 3/4. Then I put a 3/4 brass threaded male to a 3/4 barb for a PEX connection, and then I'll be running that to the to my actual isolation valve, and then that will be tied into my main pump trunk, and then from there I'll show you basically how I ended up doing that fully afterwards.
I'm in my crawl space now. I have my respirator on, so I might sound a little muffled, kind of like Kermit the Frog. As you guys can see, I brought the pressure tank down into a crawl space. It's a very tight fit. I laid some vapor barrier on the ground there, dug out a little bit of the dirt out so that I can actually fit everything in. So what I'm gonna do, I know I probably can't do it all in one shot, so I'll be doing multiple videos, and I'll try to stitch them together as best as possible. But I'll kind of go through the phases before each video, just so that you have an idea of what I'm gonna do here. So the pressure tank right now is just sitting sideways. The moment that I flip it over, I won't be able to access that bottom part properly. So what I want to do is I want to tie my PEX on that port and make sure that that connection's done first. Then I'll flip it over and sit on the vapor barrier little patch there right next to my duct. In the future, I'm planning on vapor barring the entire surface of the dirt here, just so the moisture doesn't come up and attack the underside of my floor joist here. So I'm gonna what I'm gonna do is, that's the pump right there. Where the pump is, I'm gonna move around. So let me just try to get a better view. What I'm gonna do is that where this is connected, it's actually leaking on the pulley, and what I want to do is I want to put a 90, bring it out to over here where there's a little bit more room instead of working in that area. I'm going to take this stud out. I'm going to clean all this out here, this plywood, and then run that over here. Pull this tee off on the discharge. I'm going to be changing this a little bit. So this is going to be the same thing up to here. Then I'm going to tee off with another 3/4 inch, and then put a reducer and then cap. So where this tees off, that's going to be the new water service line. This is going to be going to the actual pressure tank over there. So you'll see one tee going this way, one tee going that way, and then this over here on top will be the cap where I can fill for priming. Other than that, this should be a pretty easy job. I've already taken the pressure out. As you can see, my pressure gauge says it's 0. The old pressure tank is right there, so I'm just going to clean that up and get that out of the way. I'm going to change that plug over there as well. I'm going to be running a new, well, not new, I'm going to reuse the wiring, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to 230 or 208, depending on how you guys like to call it. It's going to be a 208 connection to the pump. I'm going to change this to the 208 voltage configuration as well, and that's going to help me with the motor not drawing as much inrush current. As you can see, this is wet, so what I'm going to do here for mounting is I made another bracket here. Let's see if I can get that out of the way nicely. So I made this little bracket here like that. This is going to bolt here to here. Now I just noticed that my mock-up of what I traced this out was from a different pump, which is a different model. It's actually the RJC model, and it looks like it's a different bolting pattern. So I might have to change a couple bolts around. Maybe I have to remount a couple drill holes, and I'll slot those out in sight right here. Anyways, I'm gonna cut this video. I ended up clearing up the studs here. Basically used a reciprocating saw and some breaker bars, and I got it out pretty easy, and I threw all that stuff out. Ended up cleaning up the teflon tape that was here. As you can see, it was leaking there, and we added some teflon tape just to hold it in place, so that we can just survive for the time being. But now we're going to do it right, and we're going to fix everything up. So first things first, I want to disconnect the existing pressure tank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crawl over there. Actually, I'm not even going to crawl over there. I'm lazy. So what I'll do is I'm just going to use a PEX cutter, and I'm just going to cut that PEX, because I am lazy. So just bear with me while I find it. So here it is. Here's my PEX cutter. I'm just going to go over here. Gonna cut this little bucket just over here where I know I'm going to cut it. I'm going to drain all the water out from that location. So basically it's not going to be a super big mess because the pressure's off. There's going to be some residual water, and of course that made a mess for my pump. I'll end up taking that out because the pump needs to dry out. That did not work as I planned. Alright. Alright, so that drained pretty good, except for getting it all over my pump, but I'll give that a good wipe before we do any electrical work, because we don't want to cause a short circuit or anything that can damage the pump motor. So that looks like the pressure is down, and that's I'm going to put this here. Let that drain, that do its thing. Now I find my cloth that was here before. Give that a little wipe down. Alright, so that's the pressure switch over here. So that being disconnected, we know that basically the expansion tank's disconnected and drained. I ended up disconnecting all the pipes connected to, or PEX that's connected to the pump. So on the suction side, the black poly, I just cut that with another cutter that can handle that, which is this little tool. And then I just stuck this underneath to catch all the water. There is a foot valve on this pipe. So at the bottom, this whole pipe is actually full of water right now. When I do the actual priming of the pump, I'm gonna have to fill that back up. So I'll talk about that, how I'm gonna do that. But this fill port that's on this T is gonna be relocated, but that is a very important fill port for me because I don't like filling it on the pump side here, because these will strip very easily. Anyways, I just wanted to show you this little progress. I'm gonna probably clean up the rest of this stuff, which the dangling pecs. I'm gonna try to hide it inside the actual joist members here. But first I'm gonna situate the pump where I want it, and then I'm going to locate where I'm gonna put the new 240 208 plug and switch. So I have both that I'm planning on installing. I'm thinking that the switch will probably go on this partition wall here, so I'll just do a little mount here, and then I will basically put the plug side by side or something very, very simple. Don't need to go overly complex on it, because if I really need to flip the switch, I just crawl under the duct, flip it, pump shuts off. So when I'm actually doing the testing or when I'm doing priming, that helps a lot, because if I know that my pump is cavitating or having difficulties, I flip the switch, I'm done. I don't need to keep pulling the receptacle in and out, because you know, that's just prone for arc flashing and other issues that you'll have for just having receptacle pulls, especially with a motor.
So I took everything outside from the crawl space, just because I wanted to work outside instead of in that cramped area. So what I'm going to do, I already took out the nylon that was in here before. It was a nylon barb to threaded, I think it was 1 inch. So what's remaining is just a poly 1 1/4 to a 1 inch reducer. What I'm gonna do now is I just mounted this on top, and I just highlighted where the bolt holes are gonna be, and then I'm gonna reuse the existing bolts that I had and stick them through and tie them down. And then once I position everything, I am going to nail this onto, well, screw it down onto my actual attachment on the floor so that it's sound. Alright, anyway, after drilling, so I drilled the new slots in. I have the existing ones that are fit for the RJC, and these are the RJS. They use the same center line, so that the front, basically this is the front, so I'll just draw a little arrow. There you go. And I'll draw another one this way, since it's more visible on this side. Ha. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just make sure that this bolts on properly. So once I slide this in position, you can see that the slots line up pretty good, and some paint's falling off. But then what I can do now is stick these bolts straight through. And once I just, there you go. So those ones will fit. It's a little snug and tight, but they fit. So all I have to do, typically I would probably use a longer bolt, just because it's, you know, it's easier to thread down and lock it down later. Be doing the mock-up, actually not mock-up, actually I'm gonna tie in the main stuff, so the main brass together, and then put the isolation valves. So my plan is it's gonna come up this way, or this way, sorry, I should reiterate. Then I'm gonna put a T here, and then I'm gonna put a cap with a reducer with my plug like that. So if you have an idea, that's kind of how it's going to look. Have my isolation valve here, isolation valve here. That's going to go towards the actual what's it called, pressure tank, and this will go to the service. So I'm just going to go ahead and start tying these in. Okay. So I'm just gonna do a little finger tight. I don't want to go too crazy yet. And then So I wanted to make sure that I did the pipe threads with the sealants before I did the video, but basically I try to do a minimum of 5 loops. So we'll go here. But I had more than 5. And just be careful about the direction that you put the sealant on, because if you put it in the wrong way, what happens is when you start putting your brass on, it actually unravels it. Okay, so that's my mock-up. Alright, and then the last but not least that I forgot to put the pipe threads on is for this piece, which is going to go right here. Up mounting up the brass. I'm just going to do electrical right now. So just to kind of go over what I've done. So I come out of here with my 1-inch, stub down to a 3 1/4. Then it tees off, and then this is my supply line that will branch off to, this will be the pressure reducing, or pressure tank, sorry. That'll be the water service. Here's going to be the fill tube. So anyways, let's get started with the electrical. So what I'm doing here is going to the back here, and I'm going to change the voltage to 230. So what I'm going to do is, all you have to do, I know this is going to be kind of hard to see, try to rotate this. So all you have to do is move the power block here from the arrow that says 115 to 230, and make sure that arrow's over there instead. So there's a line there, you want to point that arrow over there. Okay. Other than that, that will do it. We're going to change the plug now, and probably throw this back in afterwards. Alright, let's put this back up. Yeah, you don't really need to over tighten these because it's really not supporting anything. So what we're going to do here is take this nut off here, and then we're going to take care of this wiring here. I don't know, you could probably do a better job clamping that down, so we'll probably just fix that. Shove that in there a little bit better, and then plug that up. So I actually don't need to get into the pressure switch here, so let's just get that open. Phillips to Robertson. So I'm just gonna open this up here. So this clamping mechanism is supposed to clamp down on that onto the actual cable, but the last guy that did it did not do that, so I'm just gonna fix that up first. Okay, so the that was pleasant. So the armor cable is now pinched in there, so it's not pulling on the wire itself. So the next thing is we're going to open up this and change the lines so that my so I have 2 hot lines. It's always irritating when none of the fasteners are the same size, but that is why we have this kit. Alright, so just gonna take these off.
cable clamps off. Okay, so with the cable clamps off, take the terminal wires off. All this stuff I don't need, so I really could care less of how it comes through. So I got my 15 amp 250 volts 6x15 or 615 NEMA receptacle. So this is the male end. What I'm going to do is start doing the install on this. So in order to do this, you pull this out, which is the back end. Now the big thing is here, I always try to keep that my black line is always going to be on my left end, so that would be my Y, and then the neutral typically for a 115 would be on the right. So I'm just going to keep that methodology so that I know. But anyways, it doesn't really matter because they're both hot. So that's a heads up. So I'm just gonna feed these guys through, which, you know, it's kind of a hassle to deal with since it's all hard, solid wires, but let's see if I can do it. So it's kind of finicky, but I'm trying to fit the longest ones first, then get the other ones in there. Okay, looks like I have some good success there. So I'm just going to try and shove it in as far as possible. Okay, so I'm just loosening up the terminals a bit so I can get a good mating surface. Okay, so they look pretty good. So I'm gonna clamp down. I'm pretty happy with the connections there. So I don't want to over torque these right away. Okay, so that's good. So what I'm wanting to do is I want to check continuity, make sure my connections are good. They look pretty good, just optically, just looking, the contacts look good. I'm just going to tighten this up a bit. Don't need to go too crazy because this is just pressure contact. So I'm just going to lower the torque on this, but at least they're all going to be evenly torqued down. Let's get these in all first before we start doing some You can see that the housing's coming in tighter and tighter. And then I'm just going to give this a wiggle so that, there you go. It's just the cable is in the way. That looks pretty good.
So now I have my 230 or that 120 volt breaker into this 2-pole to make it a 208. Basically, this is the breaker that I'm dealing with. I'm going to take this out, unhook the line, and then have to find the neutral line, bring the neutral line back up to this so that they connect to these ports instead. This is a square D panel, so I'll have to use square D, actual square D breakers. Anyone that does not feel comfortable doing this, don't do it. This video is kind of just for my records of what I've done and kind of a library for myself. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to actually turn off the power to the house, which is the right down here, which is that 100 amp breaker there. And after that's been done, I will unhook this and go from there. And I just realized that I do want to check with a non-contact voltage pen, and I bring this over here, does that, bring it up over here. Basically these are hot, so I'm going to be doing that check once I deactivate or take, come on, out, stay, good girl. Alright, so I'm going to do that now. So first things first, I'm going to turn off this, and I'm not sure if everyone can see, but I will turn this flashlight on. So I'm going to turn off this breaker right here. So that's the house. So everything just went kaputs. So I'm going to check. See, now this, when I push it down, it basically says these are not hot. So that's a good thing. So what we're going to do now is detach this breaker. Good. And we're going to take that off. I want to find the neutral wire, which is over here. Oh man, it's a mess. Okay, all the way down to that one. So that second port from the top there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that one out. Just unscrew that. Smoke detectors are on the 120 volt line, so they're all kind of beeping at me outside right now. So I'm just going to pull this one up. Sorry, I'm just going to have to move the light because I need to pull this wire up. So this is the neutral line. I don't need to do anything with the ground, but I want to make sure that there is a ground. Yeah, so there is a ground wire. So that's the one that goes down to the pump. So that's grounded. I'm not worried about that. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to disconnect that, but before I do, you can see that this guy, he didn't do it, but I'm going to do it. So basically I'm going to color coordinate saying that this line going through this white line is hot. So I'm just going to label that. You don't need to do it. Any electrician would know, but I'm kind of anal that way, that I like to label all my stuff. So I'm just going to run the tape like that. Maybe just do a little spiral around it like that. Okay. Okay, so that's done. Tighten that up. So basically it looks like you got two hot lines. So I'm gonna keep the same for the phase. Well, I guess it's single phase, but I'm gonna have it on the same bars. Anyone that's an electrician would understand. So the black line is going to maintain the same bar that it was originally on, and that to me is not super important, but to me, I like to be consistent. So that one that I was just talking about that needs to be on that same bar was this one on the lower one. Okay, these are really clamped down pretty good. I'm just going to open up all these breakers before I start doing it. Okay, so both these breakers are now, or those poles are open. I'm going to slide, we'll do the same thing so that we're consistent. Okay, so I'm going to bring that down, and I'm going to clamp it down. Sorry, there you go. Okay, and then same thing goes with the white, which is now black with the tape. So I'm just going to slide that into the right location, which is right there, and run that across. Okay, so that's done. These are pretty solid in there. I'm just going to tighten them up just a little bit more. Okay, that's good. Alright, so then what you do now is these are going to the bars, and this is actually the hot bars. So I'm just going to run the wires a little bit down, put a little kink on that just so that I don't particularly like how this is all kind of stripped. I'm not sure if that's paint or the guide. I'm sure that should be okay. Okay, so I'm just going to run it like that. You know what? I don't like that one bit, so I'm going to do that. This is why we turn off the power, because then you can kind of manipulate the lines without electrocuting yourself. Okay. Alright, so I'm pretty happy about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the mounting one first. Oh, it doesn't really matter, just put the bars in. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Okay. Alright, so we got the 15 amp 2-pole breaker in there. Kind of daisy loop that a little bit. I've got my loops jumbled up. I'm going to just make sure that it's clean so that it's clean. Okay. Alright, so I am keeping this breaker off because I still need to do work down there, and anyways, I'm gonna turn the power back onto the house. and we're good. Alright, so I'm gonna close this all up. Basically, do one more check. So if I bring it over here, that's a neutral. But if I bring it here, that's hot. That's hot. That's hot. It's hot. That's hot. That's hot. Determine whether or not there is a voltage in the line. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna close this all up now. I don't think anyone needs to see me close it up, but I'll catch you guys downstairs. Oh, before I mention anything, or before I close it up, this piece, which is 23, that's where I put that new double pole. That needs 25 because that takes 2. This needs to come off, so I have to pry that off. I'll do that without doing a video because it's well, let's just see if I can do it quickly. Nope. Let me do it properly with some pliers. So let's just go down here, grab just any plier will do. It's just the grip on, and then just wiggle. So you give that a good wiggle and just keep going back and forth, and that will fall apart. It's just a malleable piece of blank cover plate. Alright, so I can hear the hot wire tank kind of warming up, so I'm going to mount this back up, and this basically goes like this up here. Okay. Alright guys, thanks for watching this part, and I will see pump project for the weekend. I ended up setting up these receptacle and switch connection for the 230 volt pump. So this is a 2-pole 15 amp switch, and that's tying in and going into this receptacle, which is a 15 amp 230 NEMA 615, and then you got your NEMA 615 receptacle going to the pump right there. Some changes that should be noted. I couldn't use the same mounting platform as I originally hoped, just because it put my pump a little too high and I couldn't do that connection properly, so I decided to opt out and ignore it. As for the pump itself, it's working good. The pressure tank is working good as well, so what I ended up doing was I pexed all the way to the pressure tank and crimped it onto the bottom. I had to dig that a little bit more just because I couldn't fit the pressure tank in there properly. As for the PEX that's kind of wrapping around in this area, I chose not to deal with it right now just because of time constraints, but I'll deal with it in the future, hopefully before the winter again. So I just wanted to conclude this project. So a couple things that worthy to note: I have a isolation valve for the pressure tank, an isolation valve for the water service right here. So if I need to, I can always shut those off if need be, for whatever reason I need to shut them off for, and it's helpful. The fill port, I know I didn't show it in the video, but basically in order to prime it, I just filled it through here with just a simple water bottle, and it made my process for self-priming a lot easier. Other than that, feel free to leave any messages and comments, and I'll see if I can respond to them as quickly as possible. Thanks guys, see ya.